Hello and welcome to my video for my week 7 coding assignment in the Promineo Tech Bootcamp. There's a lot going on here, so I'll make it quick. This assignment was primarily made to cover loops, it seems, and also arrays. So I'll briefly go over each of the questions and explain my code. So for this one, we were asked to make an array, and we were asked to access the first and last index and make sure it was dynamic. So to make sure I could access the last index even though I might add something, I used ages.length minus 1, so it's always the last index of the array. And you can see right here, it also asks us to do a bit of subtraction. So we were supposed to subtract the last value of the array from the first value of the array. And so for the first time it was 90, but then I added 19 and I got 16. And then for the last one I was supposed to calculate the average, I believe. Yes, I was supposed to calculate the average, and the average is 27.6. So for the second question, we were asked to make an array of names. And we were supposed to loop through the names and calculate the average number of letters. And we were also supposed to concatenate all the names together. And for question 2, you can see right here the average amount of letters per name is 3.83. And here are all the names concatenated together. For question 3, I was asked how to access the last index of array. As I mentioned earlier, it's length minus 1. So the length of the array minus 1. And then for question 4, it's how do you access the first one? The first index of the array is 0 because it's 0 based. For number 5, it says create a new name called name lengths, and we were supposed to loop over the previous names array we made and add the length of each name to the array. So we were supposed to add the lengths of each name to a new array. So it's an array full of numbers, and you can see right here, that's what I did. It's an array that represents the length of each name. For number 6, we were supposed to write a loop to iterate over the name's length array and calculate the sum of all elements in the array. So let me see real quick. Question 6, where are you? All right, so for question 6, we were supposed to basically add up all of the numbers in the array. So 3 plus 5 plus 3, so that's 11, 16, 23, 23, there it is. And then for the next question, we were asked to write a function that repeats a word several amount of times for the given number of times. So you can see right here, I made a function called repeat word. It takes a string and it takes a number of times you want to repeat it, and I just used a simple for loop and returned the final concatenated word. And you can see right here, hello 3 times, hello 3 times. For question 8, we were supposed to write a function that combines a first and last name into one string. It concatenates them. So right here I have a first name and a last name, and it returns the two together separated by space. And I used my name, so it's Moses space Ventura. For number 8, my bad. For number 9, we have to write a function that has to take an array of numbers and returns true if the sum of all numbers in the array is greater than 100. So I called that function 100 check, and it accepts an array of numbers. And I created a variable called sum, and that sum gets incremented for each value in the array. And you can see right here, it adds up to 100, but since it has to be greater than 100, it returns false. And you can see right here for question 9, I have false. Moving on to question 10. Write a function that takes any array of numbers and returns the average of all elements in the array. So we take all those numbers, we add them together, so another variable called sum, and then we divide it by the length of the array, and that should give us the average. So for question 10, you can see the average is 25 since I made the array be 100. Moving on to question 11, we were asked to basically compare two arrays, so the sum of the values in two arrays. So I made a function that accepts two arrays, and I made two variables for each sum in the array. I used the loop to increment those sum values, and I returned true if the sum of the values in array 1 was greater than the sum of values in array 2, and false if it didn't. For question 12, it was a simple question that we used the AND comparison operator to complete. So if we had the correct amount of money and it was hot outside, we were supposed to buy a drink. So we have a function called buy a drink, and if it's hot outside and we have the correct amount of money, which is $10.50, it should return true. And if we don't have that, then it returns false. If we don't have either one, it returns false. And you can see for question 12, I put a value that's true and above the minimum required, and for question 12 it returns true. And for the last one, we were supposed to create our own function, and I created a function called isPalindrome, and essentially it takes a string and we use a loop to make it into an array, and then we reverse the array, and then we compare the array to see if it's the same reversed as it is in the normal structure. And if it is, it returns true. If it isn't, it returns false. Um, and you can see right here, I called the function and I used the input of rotator, which is a palindrome, and it returns true.